Castle Rock in Edinburgh was first settled in the Iron Age. There's been a fortification here for a very long time. In the late 1200s, King Edward I of England decided he was going to unite the whole of the island of Britain under his rule. So he conquered Wales, the kingdom off to the west, and then he turned his attention north to Scotland. And that's a big problem for the Scots. England has about 10 times the population of Scotland, so a much larger army and a lot more people paying taxes to equip that army. So it won't necessarily come as a complete surprise to you to hear that at the start of our story the English were holding Edinburgh Castle. This was all a bit embarrassing for King Robert the Bruce. Here he is, sworn protector of the realm of Scotland, and here is one of his principal castles in the hands of the ancient enemy. Even in the 1200s, England was the ancient enemy. This goes back a little way. Fortunately for the Bruce, though, he had the advantage of a bit of local knowledge. In particular, a man called William Francis. Now, in his youth, William Francis had been part of the garrison of Edinburgh Castle. Castle gates close every night at sunset and don't open again until sunrise, and nobody's supposed to be coming in and out between those times. But William Francis had a girlfriend in town he wanted to visit, and love will always find a way. And the particular way that William Francis found was up over the north wall of the castle. There's kind of a scramble round the castle rock. It's not a path, it's definitely a climb. And it takes him from the castle out into the old town of Edinburgh. So he'd climb out of the castle at night, round the scramble, spend a few hours with his true love, and then back around the scramble, back up over the wall of the castle, back into his own bed. And nobody ever noticed that he was missing. So when the Bruce was looking for a plan, William Francis stepped forward and told his story. And the Bruce said, "Oh, yes, excellent, we can definitely use that." So, main Scottish army attacked the main gate to create a distraction, and they're making as much noise as they can, hammering on their shields, shouting loudly. Covering up the noise as a small group of only about 30 men followed William Francis and the Bruce's nephew Thomas Randolph round that scramble, up over the castle wall, down the path to the main gate, attacked the gate guards from behind. The gate guards, of course, not expecting to be attacked from that direction, and their cries for help were drowned out by the noise that the Scottish army had been making for the last hour. So they're defeated, drawbridges opened, and the entire Scottish army pours into the castle and defeats the English garrison, who are mostly still in their own beds. So Edinburgh Castle is back in Scottish hands. Hooray! But the English army is still much bigger, and it still has much better siege engines. So the Bruce knows he's not going to be able to hold it for very long. So rather than lose the castle again, he has the whole thing demolished in the early 1300s. The only building he didn't destroy is the castle's chapel. Not saying the Bruce wouldn't have demolished a church, but on this occasion he didn't. The Bruce and his men then took to the hills and fought a guerrilla war. So the English are holed up in the remaining castles and the fortified towns. The Bruce is destroying every castle he can get hold of because basically he can't hold them, he doesn't want them being used against him. So the Bruce and his men are holding the countryside, which means supply trains coming up from England are being ambushed, the beer and the food and the pay are not arriving, any small patrols that go out don't come back. If you're a soldier in any of these garrisons, it would be an astoundingly bad idea to decide that you're going to go to the pub on your own one evening if you have some time off, because if you do that, you're not coming back. But anytime the English march out in large numbers, the Scots just melt away into the hills, not to be found, because they know the country a whole lot better. Eventually, after several decades of this, the English gave a resounding cry of, "Well, you can just keep the bloody place then. It's damp, it smells of sheep, you lot are no fun, and we are going home." And thus was Scottish independence preserved.